questions. And who better to ask about Congressman Scalise's appearance than David Duke himself? So, 2002, did Steve Scalise speak to the group that you founded?
Frankly, I'm not sure. I was in Russia at the time doing research for my doctoral dissertation. I since got a PhD. And I was in Moscow, in fact, in the National Archives almost every day. I did a telephone hookup. And by the way, we got to make something really clear here. You know, they say former Klan leader or whatever. This was 37 years ago in my life, okay? And,
but true. I mean, well, admittedly, over a long time period, but true.
It's also true that Robert Byrd was in the Klan. But a lot of people were friends of Robert Byrd, right, in the Senate, Democrats and Republicans. It's really a biased situation because I denounce, first of all, I was never violent, but I denounced even then violence. I left it because I didn't want to be associated with that kind of taint. I've never supported white supremacism. You got to read about it in the paper. This wasn't a hate group. In fact, the European American Unity and Rights Organization was an organization in its charter dedicated to true civil rights and stopping discrimination against people. The best qualified people should be gauged, and that every people have the right to preserve their heritage, their freedom, and their values.
You founded Euro.
Yeah, I did found
Euro.
He's covering himself. But, you know, but we've got to go to a deeper aspect of this, and the fact that if any United States Congress went to a group called La Raza Unida, and presidents have done that too, which is the United Race, which is an activist advocacy group for the interests of Mexican Americans and Latino Americans. If that was happened, nobody would have a blink of an eye.
Well, you would.
Well,
and you beef about that in the same way that people are beefing about this.
Actually, I don't, sir. The fact is, I believe that every people has a right to work for their interests, to preserve their heritage. In fact, I believe every people on earth have that right. I believe that every nation and every people has a right to be free and independent. Now, that's what I preach every day. You can hear it on my radio show. You can see it on my website, my books, my writings. But it goes beyond that. Of course, if he would have gone to an African-American advocacy group who's concerned about African-Americans, like the NAACP, Republicans, Democrats go to that, no problem. If he'd have gone to a Jewish advocacy group, even advocacy for a foreign country, which is Israel, and the interests of the Jewish people, no problem. But he came to a European organization, big problem. And don't forget, he was an elected official. So what is America all about? Aren't we supposed to believe that if you're an elected official, when you serve in Congress, you're representing all the people of your district, not the people just who voted for, not the people you agree with. Aren't you supposed to live in time? So here's the situation. I was not his supporter. He was not my supporter. I did not contribute to him. He did not contribute to me, okay? He was not a member of my organization. He was a early young representative who just got elected in Louisiana, and he was pushing a tax program, and he was coming to constituents. And again, I believe that every elected official has a responsibility to hear out people who are right-wing, left-wing.
No matter their viewpoint.
Of course. Hypocritical.
New David Duke was in the last 3 years, your open letter to the world, and you go back and you talk about World War II and you talk about atrocities on both sides of the aisle, but you never use the H word. You never use Holocaust. I don't want to get into this whole debate today, but you raised it. Do you believe in the Holocaust?
Well, I say...
Does the new David Duke in 2015 2015 believe that the Holocaust occurred?
Well, of course, I believe there were terrible atrocities.
No, but I want you to say it differently.
Okay.
I want you to say the Holocaust occurred.
I don't care what you call it. But with the point I make...
I want to hear you say it.
Okay, I believe in the quote, Holocaust. But let me tell you something. Why is it that there's no movies, very little attention about the greatest Holocaust in the history of the world, which was the Holocaust against Christians by the Soviet communism? And that's my point, is that we have a controlled media today that talks about the Holocaust, but they don't talk about the death and destruction of tens of millions of Christians.
I want to talk about everything.
Which was bigger than...
I want to talk about everything, which is why you're here.
My book is The Secret Behind Communism, and it deals with that issue, and you can write to me at davidduke.com and find out about it.
Klan member. First of all, I understand you were not at the conference where Congressman Scalise spoke. Is that correct?
That's correct. In fact, actually, at the time, I was in Moscow. In fact, I was in the Russian archives during that period doing research for this book, The Secret Behind Communism, which was about the origins of communism. And by the way, my speech at the conference, which was done by a telephone hookup, was actually about how the Iraq war would be a catastrophic war for America and only help the enemies of America and put Americans in harm's way for a lie, because I said there were no weapons of mass destruction. That was it about. I was never a white supremacist. I'm not a white supremacist at all. In fact, the European American Union Rights Group was, in fact, a chartered civil rights organization. And I, in fact, in the Louisiana legislature, sponsored a bill that forbid racial discrimination in these programs called affirmative action, which are racial discrimination.
Let's get back to the Congressman Scalise.
Well, here's the deal. I was out of the Klan at this time longer than Robert Byrd was out of the Klan when he went to the United States Congress. Robert Byrd was a former Klansman, and by the way, in fact, he was in it for years after I was. I was in my 20s, and I've always condemned violence. And here's President, and you can zoom in on it if you want. Here's President Obama, you know, with Robert Byrd. When he died, he was there. Clinton was there, all praising Robert Byrd as a great man.
But he repudiated his past, and I mean, you're still the head of the European, whatever group it is. No. When you defend the rights of all Americans, you're wait. That's just
not racism.
Just the label of the group is sending a message. The European Union.
Oh, it's the same message.
I know you. Look, I've known you for a long time.
You're not even letting me answer.
We don't have enough time for you to answer and give your philosophy.
Of course you don't. Of course you. No.
The thing is about Scalise.
Look,
but don't sit there and tell me you're not a white. Your organization isn't looking out for the white European race. That's what you're looking out for.
I tell you what, I'm looking out for the rights of all Americans. I also believe that European Americans shouldn't be discriminated against in jobs or scholarships or any other way.
Yeah, all right, and that's a position that's being debated all over the place.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Don't sit here and tell me that you're not trying to promote the cause of white people, because you are.
Look, I am absolutely. I love my people, my heritage. I want to preserve my heritage like every people does.
Preserve your heritage? What does that mean?
How about European heritage?
What does that mean?
Look, I'll tell you what. You don't know what European heritage is? You don't know what Mozart is and Bach and Beethoven? You don't know.
They're people. They come from different countries.
Let me tell you.
The problem with this garbage on both sides
is
that we're all in it together, and skin color shouldn't matter.
You know what? The people that run the media, they're inflaming the African Americans against European Americans, and they're inflaming a sector of European Americans and African Americans. But the truth is, the real people who are repressing and hurting all of us are the big bankers, which are robbing us blind, like the Goldman Sachs of the world. They're putting us in these wars for Israel. That's who's hurting all of Americans.
Mr. Duke, I gotta go, but we appreciate you coming in.